Hi, everybody, and welcome to our presentation, Insight Playbooks 2026, Research Plays for the Changing Consumer. I'm Quirk's editor, Joe Ridholm, and before we get started, I just wanted to go over the ways you can participate in today's discussion. You can use the chat tab to interact with other attendees during today's presentation, and you can use the Q&A tab to submit questions to the presenters, and we'll get to as many as we have time for at the end. Our session today is presented by Voxpopme. Enjoy the presentation.
I will jump straight into it. For those of you that don't know me, I am Tom Higgins. I am the Senior Growth and Product Marketer here at Voxpopme, and I'm joined by the wonderful Erica Dinger. Erica has spent years in the research industry on both the client side at brands like Under Armour and also on the vendor side with Voxpopme and Qualtrics. So she has tons of experience building research programs from the ground up, and now works with CPG teams every day. So she really does understand the challenges that you face day to day in your roles, and I'm really here to just tap into Erica's expertise, and it's a very much a fireside chat format today. So I'll be setting the scene and then asking some questions and letting Erica share her knowledge, and we would absolutely encourage you to participate, as I said, in the chat and the Q&A as well. Erica, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hello, everyone. That was such a lovely introduction, Tom. And I love that we're calling it a fireside chat. It is already about 80 degrees here. So it is feeling very much like maybe not a fireside chat, maybe a lemonade on the back porch chat.
I would absolutely take you up on a lemonade on the back porch, Erica. We've also got some sunshine here in the UK as well, so we're feeling very almost summery or springy, let's call it. But I'm glad Erica had a power out last night as well, just to throw some drama into the mix. But I'm glad we're all here, and thank you for spending the time with us today, Erica. So before we get into the playbooks themselves, let's ground today's session in the kind of market reality that we're all seeing out there at the moment. So based on 2025 piece of research from the PLMA, we're now in a situation where 1 in 4 brands is a store brand. So the competition for shelf space is probably greater than ever, and it's coming from those primarily from those store brands. And you're seeing that the impact of that at the till or the checkout, because in 2025 private label brand sales grew at 3 times the rate of national kind of household brand names. So we're seeing this huge shift in both supply and demand, which is having big impacts and has big ramifications both for the brands in which we work for, but also the insights teams and the way we go about conducting our research. But what's actually happening is what's really important. So we're seeing, as I said, those store brands, they're actually winning both on shelf visibility and on price points. We're seeing them actually take away from that brand share at the shelf. And that's seeing brand loyalty soften across categories. Today's focus is very much on CPG, but we're seeing this carry across food and beverage. It's having impacts, obviously, naturally on retailers themselves as well. So yeah, it's really important to recognise that this trend isn't just for CPG brands, but today we're going to be spending time looking at the CPG playbook, which will come to shortly. But as a result of that increased visibility and the softening of brand loyalty, you've seen shoppers actually trade down, and there's other pressures as well, like economic pressures and there's a cost of living crisis. Certainly here in the UK, and I know, Erica, it's happening over stateside as well. But you've seen shoppers trade down, and at least from their perception, without necessarily sacrificing quality. And the painful piece or the scary piece for all of us in that is that shoppers are beginning to make those switches quietly, and those decisions don't actually show up as signals for our teams until it's until it's too late, either in a brand tracker or in the sales report at the end of the quarter. Erica, I don't know if you want to add anything to that background.
You know, we were talking about this yesterday. There is a French politician in the 19th century who basically said something that was like, there go my people. I must get in front of them so I can lead them. It feels like that kind of moment right now for Insights team. Like, there go my customers. I need to get in front of them so that I can know what they want and make sure they're sticking to my brand. So it really feels like a moment of thinking about that. And I think, you know, spoiler alert, the playbooks that we're going to talk about are really a great way to make sure that you are able to get in front of your customers and you are able to pick up these signals before you're seeing them in your bottom line.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, such a great point. And carrying it all the way through to that bottom line is what really matters to all of us. That's where we can have the biggest impact. So yeah, excited to delve into this further with you, Erica. But before we get to that, it's really important to emphasize that these changes, they're not slowly chipping away at brand loyalty. This is a huge shift, and we don't have time to study it, plan for it, run a huge piece of research next quarter. This is something that we need to act on today, not only because it's a threat, but it's also an opportunity. That brand loyalty is very much up for grabs, and those brands that can spot those signals early are going to win in the marketplace. So they're agile insights teams that can find that customer truth and deliver it to the stakeholder or the team that matters when it matters, are going to come out on top, and their brands are going to come out on top. So yeah, it's a really important moment for brands operating in the CPG space. And we promised fireside chats. So, Erica, you work with CPG teams on like I said at the start, a near daily basis. What's kind of separating the teams that are teams and brands that are winning out there versus the ones that are scrambling and almost feeling on the back foot and being somewhat reactive?
Yeah, what we're seeing definitely is that the teams that are going to be winning right now are not necessarily the ones that have the biggest budgets or that have the largest teams. They're going to be the ones that have a system, that are getting in front of consumers and that are figuring out what is happening before they are seeing, again, that bottom line change. So moving from sort of this ad hoc research, and I love ad hoc research, but moving from sort of this ad hoc research to repeatable plays, systemic organizations of research that they can run fast, that they can do again and again, and that will also give them that timeline, that longevity approach to things. So not designing from scratch every time, knowing what questions to ask, knowing how to set it up. And again, this is incredibly crucial, knowing what to do with the answer once you have it, both the building blocks and also how to put it into frameworks that are going to be best for your stakeholders to see and understand and help them make that decision, which is just really incredibly crucial to this whole thing. So again, as you said it, Tom, the ones who are guessing, the ones who are reactive, like, oh, there's a question, let me design something for it. Those teams are going to be on the back foot. And when leadership asks a question, you have to scramble. And by the time you do the setup, get the budget approved, ask all the questions, set up your screeners, actually field the research, get the answers, put the answers into a way that can be understood by stakeholders. Well, the decision's been made, right? Like either you've lost share, the decision's been made, you've lost that seat at the table. So that's really what we're seeing with a lot of CPG teams right now.
It's amazing. Thank you, Erica. And that's really interesting as well. Like I just take it even back to like an individual feeling of like, we all know what it feels like to be reactive in our work, and it's not a comfortable place to be. So when you feel on the front foot and you feel proactive and you've got this head start when it comes to conducting your research or whatever it is your role may be, like it's a much better place to operate from. So I just thought that's worth calling out. And this is precisely what Insight Playbooks are built for. Insight's Playbooks are designed across 4 different sectors, which you've seen, I think, promoted in the initial invite to this session. So I won't delve through that just now, but essentially each playbook is full of research plays that are designed to take you, to help you find customer truth through quick turn research that is repeatable in nature, but also very much customizable. They're designed to give you a foot up so that you can cherry pick what you want and what's most valuable and run the research to your slightly customized to your specific business challenges, the unique requests that you get from stakeholders in your business, and ultimately get you to that customer insight and that customer truth quickly enough so that you can use it to shape strategic decisions. You can influence those high stakes moments, whether that's the latest product launch, whether it's a piece of repositioning work or claims testing, or whether you're making a huge innovation bet and you need to get that consumer input. Like I say, it's designed to give you that foundation and that leg up. So today we're going to walk through some of the key cards from the CPG playbook, but there is lots more. For those of you that haven't downloaded the CPG playbook just yet, we will get that to you in the show notes afterwards as well. Erica, did you want to add anything before I jump into the CPG playbook?
I just want to say, like, all of these are designed to to focus in on CPG, and we do have other verticals that we have as a rollout as well. But just because these are designed for CPG does not mean that they cannot be adapted to a different vertical if you need it. And similarly, when you see a lot of, like, I think food and bev is next that we're coming out with, you're going to see so many of those that can also be adapted to CPG. So again, these are designed for you, but they're also designed to be customized by you.
Thank you, Erica. Such an important thing to call out. We know there's no like perfect template for every scenario, but if you're able to take these plays and spot how they fit into your world, then as I said, it's going to give you a really valuable starting point, and you can cherry pick what you need and what's most valuable to you. So here is the overview of the CPG playbook. It is comprised of 9 plays, so 9 research study types across 3 different categories: own the shelf, bring the brand to life, and protect the brand. And we're going to focus on 3 today that specifically address the private label issue that we outlined at the start of this call. And we also have a bonus combination, because we think these plays are incredibly powerful when they're stacked and they're used together to give you different lenses on the challenge that your business is trying to solve for or facing. Erica, anything you want to talk through on this slide?
I mean, you set it up at the beginning, but just to bring it back, one of the reasons why we are focusing on the private label and kind of going through that lens today with some of the plays that we have decided to focus on today are because that's what we're seeing in the space, right? We're definitely seeing folks go, we always see this at moments of inflation where people revert back to a store brand. But what we do know, especially from the work we have done over the past few years, is that once consumers turn to a private label, it can be really hard to bring them back, especially if they're not seeing that quality. And that's where you really see how important emotion is and nostalgia and all these other things that really qualitative research is set up to show brilliantly and to really give you that why behind the change, which can help with that hard barrier of bringing folks back.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Erica. Yeah, and like such a great call out. And one thing that I love about these playbooks is, especially if you were to lean on AI, we could have put hundreds of studies or potential plays into these playbooks, but these are all handcrafted by Erica. I would say lightly edited by myself, but Erica really is the practitioner and the brains behind the operation, because we think these will be incredibly valuable to the industry right now. That's not to say there won't ever be more plays, but yeah, we think these are going to give you a really good starting point. So here's the lineup for today's sessions. We're going to run through 4 plays that the CPG teams are facing right now. So we'll go through Stand Out on the Shelf, which in that one I'll break down the anatomy of a play. So what are those cards all about? And also we'll do our first walkthrough with Erica. Then we will move on to Brands Unfiltered, where we look at brand perceptions and how we can understand those brand perceptions and use them to our advantage. And then last but certainly not least, Beat Brand Betrayals, which is all about exploring why consumers switch and what we can do about it. And last, actually, this will be the real last one. We have a bonus play for you, so stick around. We are going to look at how we go about stacking plays together. So we'll run through that after we've done that initial batch of 3. So I am going to get out my laser pointer on this slide. In fact, no, we'll go for a pen because I just want to call out some of the key components of a card. Now, I realize for some of you joining, this may be slightly smaller in size on a webinar screen, but I really want you to just see the full card layout. And if you download the CPG playbook or any of the other playbooks in our series, you'll see this consistent structure to the deck of cards that we've built for these research plays. So on the left-hand side here, you will see the category down here. So you've got Own the Shelf, which is the category, and then you've got the individual play, which is Stand Out on the Shelf, and you'll see that on the card here. And then you can pretty instantly see what this study is going to do for you, and like what's the trigger. It's going to tell you exactly when to run this play. So on the Stand Out on the Shelf, when your pack, your claim, or your promotion or your price isn't winning in store, and then it's going to tell you how it helps. So this is the top line, like why bother doing this piece of research? And it's going to just quickly outline what you should be able to find out, and where you might want to focus. Those vary slightly by card, as you can imagine, but that's a really important component as to picking which card is going to help me most right now. And then on the back side of the card, you've got setup. So some guidance on how you might go about running these studies. We know these aren't the only ways to go about running these studies, but these are our best practices, our guidance on how you can go about running these types of research. And we know they work because we do these with Voxpopme clients all the time. But that being said, they're pretty platform agnostic. So if you want to try it with a vendor that you're already working with, that's absolutely fine. We hope there's value in there for you within this. And then you've got the questions section just below it. So what I love to advise people here is to treat this very much like a menu. You're not having to run every single question on the back of each of these cards. Have a look at it. What's the problem you're trying to solve, which aligns nicely to the perhaps it's the stakeholder request that you've received, and which is going to give you the information you need to act is the ultimate goal there. And last but certainly not least, we have the analysis and what next section. So in the analysis component, we'll tell you what to look out for when it comes to conducting that research analysis. Is it specific patterns? Is it specific trends and themes? Is it like an individual blocker? Whatever it may be, we're going to give you some guidance on there. So, you know, actually, when I get to the analysis component, at least I've got a jump start of things to go and explore. And then we're going to give you what next. So that could be run another play from this playbook and customize that and run it, or it could be go and run quantitative study with your provider over here. It could be anything that we think is the best next step to that specific card. So Erica, I'm going to clear all those very ugly red marks before I get in trouble with the design team. But do you want to run through the actual content of the standout on the shelf card?
Sure. This is, as Tom said, this is one that you want to turn to when your product, whether that's, your box, your claim, whatever it is, it's not winning in store. And you need to see what is really blocking that choice. And again, as Tom said, in the front, we say like when you run it and then how it helps, what you should be able to say at the end of this project. Now, the setup, we're answering some of our most asked questions that we get from clients. One of the most asked questions is how many people should we talk to? So we answer that question. Here on this card, it's a little bit unique because we've both given a setup that you want to think about if you're doing it quantitatively. So again, in that case, you want to look at 2 to 4 maybe shelf scenarios and keep your visuals relatively clean. If you're in store with this one, again, I'm going to suggest, you want to maybe have folks go to 2 stores. We see this a ton. Maybe you have a big box store like a Walmart or a Target that you're in, and then maybe you have like a grocery that you're in. You really want to see those different setups because they can be very, very different. You want to see how people are reacting in those different scenarios. We have 7 prompts for almost all of these. I think a couple of them we might have 8, but we have 7 prompts for most of these. And again, you're thinking about that classic research funnel where you start broad and then you get very, very specific into your own product. And a couple of the things we like to ask are things like, what do you see first? Like just what's that first impression? What's that first noticeable thing that they see? And then I always love to end with something that is around like what's one change that would make this the simple choice? What's something you would tell the creator of X, if you could tell them anything that would make this a better product for you? So those are great questions to end on. We've done this with a ton of our CPG clients, and one of them that came up recently, sorry, a little frog in my throat, was they truly thought that they had an issue with visibility. And it turns out that they were very visible. Folks had no problem reading the new script on the box. They had no problem understanding that this was a premium from their regular. But the problem was, did they actually have the ability to play in this space? They were not the first thought when people thought of a premium option in this category. So they really had a claims issue. They had an attitude issue, and it wasn't a visibility issue. So good to know. Again, I always say this, Tom's heard me say this 1 million times, that good research answers questions, but good research should also pose new questions. So of course, their next step after this was, okay, how do we better position ourselves to have the authority to have a premium option in this category? So that was their next step. We have some next steps on this. And again, these are vendor agnostic. So sometimes our next steps are go do a brand study, or go do a driver study is often a next step that we will suggest in these.
Thank you so much, Erica. I love that as well. Like, we so often, all of us in our working lives, we go in with like assumptions, at least, and biases that are built up just through our own lived experience. So like, how often do you see, I guess, that assumption of the problem's one thing, and actually it's a complete other thing that people weren't even considering?
This is the value of hearing from your consumers directly, because if you're sitting in a brand seat, you spend 40 plus hours a week thinking about your product, your brand, all of these things. And it's sometimes you need to take a step back and realize that consumers spend 10 or 15 seconds a week thinking about your brand. So hearing from them and hearing their actual thoughts, hearing their actual thought process as they move through the decision-making tree is so important. So, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why you have to take a step back and do research and actually go back to your actual consumer and figure out what they're thinking.
I love that, Erica. Although I would confess that my favorite chocolate brand I spend a large amount of time thinking about. So maybe I'm the exception to the rule.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, let's move on. We've got a few more cards to get through before the end of the session. Next up is Brand Unfiltered, from the Bring the Brand to Life category. And this is all about understanding how your brand is perceived, both functionally and emotionally. So, Erica, why does it matter in the private label context that we've been sharing here today?
Yeah, when you're thinking about private label, they're really closing that quality gap. And a lot of people, there's more information out there for consumers than there ever has been before. So a lot of consumers realize that, hey, this thing that I love as a name brand is packaged at the same plant as the white label for the store, for my Kroger brand. So why am I paying a premium? So when that quality gap gets closed, a lot of times the only thing that is protecting your brand is going to be that emotion behind it. Now, I could talk all day about brand trackers. I love me a good brand tracker, but brand trackers tell you what people think. They don't tell you what people feel. So when we ask questions like, what are 3 words you would use to describe this brand? Is this a brand for people like you, which we know is a huge driver of intent to buy and likelihood to purchase? So that can be incredibly valuable to find out the why behind that. And then is it fun things like, if this brand were an animal, if this brand were a car? We've all heard these questions. We love these questions, and they really get to the emotion behind it. So a lot of the times the power here is the language consumers are using, not necessarily the NPS scores that you're seeing. So again, alongside a brand tracker, this lets you dive down deep and really tell you why the numbers move, give you an early warning sign that your numbers might be about to move. And so that's really when you want to look at that. And this one, for instance, we're saying like, you want to talk to more consumers on this one. This is not a 15 person. This is like a 30 to 50 person. And if you've got a segmentation behind that, where you've got segments of interest, especially, great thing to add on a segmentation lens to this one as well.
I love that guidance, okay, just particularly around the sample sizes, because we get those questions a lot, like how much is enough, or like, yeah, how much is going to give me usable data that I can use to influence, well, first spot patterns and trends, and then use to influence decisions. One thing I've got to call out on this card, and you kind of touched on it briefly, the question, like, where you imagine the brand as an animal, is that, I'm taking my non-research head here, like, is that just for fun, or is it like, is the insight genuinely useful?
It kind of gets people out of their prepared statement. Like if they were about to say like, oh, it's a smart brand, or like, it forces them to think metaphorically, and you can honestly get a lot of insight. I used to work for big sports brand. Go to my LinkedIn, you'll see which one I'm talking about. And one of the things that we found there was definitely that we were seen as a more aggressive brand, like a more like a wolf brand. And some of our main competitors were seen as much more friendly and approachable, like a golden retriever brand, or a fluffy kitten brand. And that's great. And then once you have that information, because that can really tell you about your positioning and whether or not your messaging is hitting, is that what you want to be seen as? The next step to that, and why brand trackers, driver studies are so important, is then you find out, okay, but is that important to people's decision making? And that's when you start to see that layering of the qualitative and the quantitative marrying together to give you that full picture of your consumer.
Interesting. I love how much you can infer just from that, like just that single question. It's so helpful, both from the existing brand perceptions of your own brand and the competitor set as well. Okay, amazing. I am going to jump on to the next one, Erica. Slightly conscious of time here.
Yeah.
This is called brand portrayals, and this is from the protect the brand category, which is the final category of the CPG playbook. This is probably the one that, at least today, feels closest. It feels closest to that private label threat that we outlined at the start, and yeah, probably the one closest to tracking the or to use when loyalty is somewhat weak. Do you want to talk us through this card?
Yeah, really quick, conscious of time. This, again, you're wanting to recruit a mix of people who are recent switchers, people who are partial switchers, so maybe they're buying multiple in this package, and then former loyalists, like people who have left you, and really digging down into what are the trigger points for all of these. This is a great trigger point. We talked about it earlier. This is also an amazing way to see when your assumptions are incorrect, because a lot of times you're going to see that maybe you had an assumption that, oh, older consumers are more loyal than the younger consumers. And you're going to see, for instance, with something like this, that blown out of the water. So this is a really great setup when you are really looking at those trigger points for switching and gets down deep into that. Again, you can analyze this with some exit studies. If you do exit studies at checkout or something else, this is a great pair with that. If you do follow-ups with internet buying, a great pair with that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erica. I'm going to move off this card because we've got to get through before the end of the session. So as I mentioned earlier on, we do have a bonus for you. We think these plays work wonderfully well when they are used in conjunction with one another, or sometimes even stuff that's not necessarily in the playbook. So down on the right-hand side, and I'll send the deck out afterwards as well, you can see the different kind of business pressures or challenges that we might be facing, and how you might use one or more cards to explore that issue from different lenses, which I think is the key part of this. It's actually taking a look at this from more than one vantage point so that we can get a holistic view on what's going on with the consumer and what's driving them either away from our brand or to our brand or what have you. So I'm going to move swiftly on to the next card, which is going to be claims that convert, which goes nicely with standout on the shelf, which we covered at the start of this section. Erica, do you want to give us a rundown on claims that convert?
Yeah, so this is claims testing using consumer video. You're testing how the specific words or the promises on your package are landing. This is really when you need to choose between maybe competing messages before locking packaging or ads. I recently had a client use this when they were trying to figure out if the claims that they used on one type of product was going to work on a different type of product, or if they needed to adapt that. So here I like to think about, look, if everything is important on the front of your package, then nothing is important. So you need to find and hone in on that claim that is actually driving the behavior, and then let some of the other ones go. So this pairs really well with standout on the shelf, because one is diagnosing the friction and the other one is fixing the message.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erica. So zooming out just briefly, realize we're so close to time now. This Insights Playbook is very much designed to create a shift in how insights teams operate. As I said earlier on, we don't want you to start every study that you have to do from scratch. And we know there's insight teams around the world of different levels of maturity. Some will have plays similar to this, others have none of this. So we want to kind of democratize that a little bit and give everyone these playbooks as a starting point. So you're not designing from scratch. So you can move from that reactive place to being more proactive and deliver insights when it matters. Erica, I won't spend too long on this slide because we are at time. I would say if you would like some more of Erica's time, there is one way to go about doing that and guaranteeing that. You can actually request a playbook workshop. I think many of you here already have downloaded the CPG playbook. You may have even also downloaded the food and beverage playbook. But if you want to have some one-to-one time or group to one time with Erica and the team here at Voxpopme, you can request the playbook workshop if you scan the QR code on this page, and you can actually take the pre-templated plays and start to customize them slightly to your individual business needs, and actually walk away from that session with a custom play that you could go and run you could run it with Voxpopme, or you could go and do it elsewhere if you see fit as well. Erica, I know that those workshops are going incredibly well. Anything to add before we conclude?
Yeah, this has been so much fun. We love talking about this. If you have questions, schedule a workshop or reach out on LinkedIn or I'm sure that you have our links on there, because we'd love talking about this. We'd love to talk about what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how to customize these plays. And if you're in a vertical that you didn't hear us mention as having a playbook coming out, let us know if that is something that is of interest to you and that you would like us to work on developing that as well. We'd love to co-create it.
Erica, thank you so much for remembering that about the other verticals as well. And the beautiful thing about this is we actually start with a pre-call, so it's just 20 minutes with our team just to understand if the playbooks will be helpful to the challenges you're working on right now. Do we have plays that we can craft with you?
Hello. All right. We've got some good questions coming in. I think sort of dovetailing off of what you were just talking about there at the end. You had a question here about, making a playbook for something like automotive or another industry.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a questions we've been getting a lot actually since we started the production of Insights playbooks, because we've started with 4 specific verticals. So CPG, food and beverage, retail, and consumer tech. Automotive isn't one of those, but I would say the concepts in the cards are like incredibly adaptable. The reason why I really like these cards is I don't think anyone's going to grab a individual card, run the entire thing, ask every question that's on the back. It's more for them to cherry pick stuff that helps them answer the challenges that they're facing in their businesses today. So go through and like identify the challenge that you're working through and use the trigger on the front of the card to see if the card aligns with that, but actually cherry pick what you want from the back. Choose the methodology that's most appropriate to you and available, whether that's with a vendor like Voxpopme or something else. So yeah, I would say they're very adaptable. So we don't have an automotive specific playbook, at least yet. But hopefully people can grab those cards and spend a bit of time just exploring them. And I would say they're designed to be adaptable and prompt you thinking around the different types of questions and problems that you want Insights to solve.
Sure. There's another one there sort of on that same line, just asking about non-CPG verticals that have to stand out on a virtual shelf. They're asking how well the playbook can be adapted to, say, something like financial services.
Oh yeah, that's a great question, and yeah, just kind of builds on the points I just made. The cards are very adaptable. You may have to use some creative interpretation if it's asking someone to evaluate claims on a shelf or on products on a shelf. But if you think about, I guess, virtual products, you're still doing lots of the same things in terms of you're trying to grab the shopper's attention. You'll have claims about the product that you're promoting. So actually, some of that really translates extremely well. And then other bits, like I say, you have to use a bit of creative interpretation. Be like, okay, I can see how this would need to be adapted to work with the product that I'm selling and marketing.
Sure. And I'm sure, as with many questions, the answer for this one will be it depends. But there's a question here just about how long it takes a typical play to run, and then what does the outlook or output look like for the stakeholders or anybody you're trying to get the information out to internally.
Cheers, Joe. Yeah, so the plays can run incredibly fast. In fact, the fastest way to run one of the plays is over at question.voxpopme.com. And you can actually have AI co-build a video survey with you. It doesn't work for every play because some of them are more complex setups and stuff like that. But when you run it like that, you can be talking qualitative insight same day. The plays are also great prompts to use with other vendors. So if you've got an existing, even some of them are more quantitative in nature, you can use those cards wherever you need. But I would say if you want a taste of just how quickly you can get to qualitative insight and answers to the questions on some of those cards, then yeah, just check out question.voxpopme.com and probably go and experience the speed and see how quickly. Yeah, some of the more complex setups you could be talking days rather than a day or two.
Right. Question here too. They're asking about how do you decide which play to start with, when you're facing multiple challenges.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, another one that we've had a lot. So I think I pointed out on about partway through that webinar when I kind of went through I got the red pen out and went through the anatomy of a card. On the front page of each of those cards is essentially a trigger. It's like, when should I run this play? So scan those cards and like see if that aligns with the business challenge that you've got, or the request from a stakeholder, and yeah, see how that marries up. Check the how it helps section and see what, like, that's going to guide you on what the research is designed to find out for you. So those two things are a great way to choose which play to start with, and then I would say on the back end of that, there is a next step section on each card as well, and that's a great guidance to go, like, work out where you need to go after you've conducted that piece of research. I mean, Erica alluded it to during the webinar. Sometimes people get unexpected findings that create more questions, and the what next is designed to help you go about answering the questions that come up from your research.
Sure. You talked about, or Erica talked about, in the, shoppers switch quietly before it shows up in the data. What in your opinion is like the earliest signal that an insights team could kind of realistically catch, to be evidence of that kind of thing?
Yeah, I love that question. So I would definitely recommend connecting with Erica for Erica's research expertise to answer this one. But here's my take on it as well. I think the language that consumers and customers use probably softens before the numbers do. So let's assume you're running regular qualitative research and you're starting to hear language like, I guess, it's fine, or I've always bought, and those kind of phrases are coming up in that research. That ambivalence I would take as an early red flag and an early warning sign, perhaps before it shows up in a brand tracker, or before it shows up in the sales data. So yeah, I guess from that stance, regular or repeatable qual, the kind of research that the playbooks are designed to help you do, are a good way to build a baseline, and also build the ability to notice changes over time. So changes in that language, changes in sentiment. So yeah, that's my take on it. Like I say, I would highly recommend connecting with Erica on LinkedIn and getting her perspective as well. But yeah.
Sure. Then a question here too, which we kind of touched on earlier, but just asking about B2B categories. If you can apply this to B2B categories.
That's a really good question. We haven't done as much of that, but we like a challenge. So whoever asked that question, please do reach out to us. We predominantly run B2C consumer research for large and mid-sized enterprises. So B2B is not completely out of left field. We have done it, but I think the plays first and foremost are built for that B2C consumer research.
Oh, sure. Well, I think as more and more people realize over the years how much emotion goes into B2B purchases, it's not just like getting the money to do it. There's all the other, saving your career or not having your boss be angry at you. There's a lot of emotion, other sort of, consumer related types of emotions that go into B2B purchases. So I'm sure you can find some relevance there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, do please reach out. We'd love to know exactly what you're trying to get at, and work out if we can support as well. Be an interesting one to discuss.
Oh, totally. And just another question you're asking about what the workshop output sort of looks like. Do the teams walk away with something ready to work on or ready to act on, or is it more of a working session to shape work that might come later?
Oh, that's a great question. The answer is it depends a little bit.
Right.
I would say for people where there's like a pre-existing play within that deck of cards where you're like, that's it, that's the sweet spot. You would spend that workshop just customizing that play a little bit to the research project that you would want to run off the back of it. And then we have the opportunity to actually launch that project as a paid pilot. So out the back of the workshop, you'd have this plan for a research study, a video first research study, and the ability to launch it and get those results in like I say, it can be a matter of days that we were able to deliver that. But for industries where perhaps there's not a clear play, or perhaps obviously there are an abundance of different research methodologies out there. Perhaps if there's not an existing play for that, we'll work with you to use our experience. We've worked with hundreds of the world's leading brands to run qualitative research to build a more custom play with you. And again, the output at the end would be the same. We'd have full research plan and brief that you can use to think about, hey, is this something that I would actually like to go and execute in the field? Maybe you're working on something right now, or stakeholders come in with a request and you're like, actually, this could really do with a qualitative lens. And it's a great way to experience agile qualitative research without necessarily the commitment to a subscription up front. Just have that play, that custom play as a pilot for the latest in video-based research.
Sure. Well, I think we've got to everybody's questions. So thanks so much for the great engagement out there. We really appreciate it. And thanks to Tom and Erica in absentia for the presentation. But thanks for joining us again today, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers all. Thank you so much for your time.